Welcome to Bangalore in the springtime. Where else can you get a carpet of pink, exotic flowers like this in the middle of the road in the neighborhood? Isn't this brilliant? I really want to know more about this tree. It's all over Bangalore, and I'm looking forward to meeting Vijay shortly. And you tell us more about the species that is literally blooming all over the place in Bangalore.
This tree, whose petals we are walking on, is from the Cerrado. Cerrado is the largest grassland in the world in South America, south of the Amazon, 2 million square kilometers of it. And in the Cerrado, you have patches of trees, and within those patches of trees, you have what are called the Tabebuyas. There are at least 3 varieties of golden yellow tubular flowers, as well as some pink and mauve colored flowers, and they're all Tabebuia species which have been brought into the city.
This is the grave of Gustav Krumbiegel, born 1865, died 1956. Vijay has told me that the answer to how the Tabebuyas came from Brazil to Bangalore lies in the cemetery. Vijay, can you tell me a little bit more about Gustav Krumbiegel?
Krumbiegel was a German who found his way into Bangalore in 1908, and ultimately, even after his official tenure, which ended in 1932, he stayed on right to the age of 90, till 1956 in Bangalore. He was in charge of all the greening of Mysore state. He was above all a bioestate. A man who changed the environment completely with his judicial planting of trees, which he had an extensive knowledge of.
So what role did he play in the colors we see in Bangalore today?
When he came into Bangalore initially, he felt the streets of Bangalore did not have enough color. So he went through this involved exercise, which worked out beautifully, of identifying 10 or so Tabebuyas from the Cerrado in South America, out of about 100 different species, and each one was selected for blossoming at a time when the earlier blossom would have died on another species. So these 10 species were all sequentially flowering species, each one lasting for about 10 days. And he chose each avenue in Bangalore. Bangalore was a much smaller city then. He chose each avenue in Bangalore and planted them with a specific species. When the blossom died out, the next avenue lit up. And that is how Bangalore got to be called the sequentially flowering avenue city of India.
first told me something that I found quite fascinating and a bit scary. That these beautiful flowers and these leaves, it might be alright to pick them up and play with them, but don't eat them. Don't ever by mistake eat them. You know why?
It seems most Tabebuyas and the 109 species are poisonous.
Poisonous?
Yes, the leaves and flowers, the bark and the roots. But there are some Tabebuyas where the flowers and leaves are both put into hot water and whatever the essences are steeps into the water, and that is drunk as a tea. That's quite mild, and they know the species where it's quite harmless, which are not poisonous.
I see.
And they serve a lot of other purposes too. You know, they have medicinal value.
Okay.
I mean, it's a wide range of trees, all under the Tabebuia genus. 109 of them. Many of them do not have very strong bark, but many of them do, and they make excellent furniture. The lighter ones are very good for floats in the sea. They withstand salt water very well. Some of them are so lightly, almost amorphous, the wood, that they're used as strops for razors.
Sorry, yes?
As strops for razors. When you sharpen razors, you have, the term is strops, S-T-R-O-P-S. You know, you sharpen the old razor blade for shaving, razors, they used to use them as strops, the wood.
There are 109 species of the Tabebuia. Many of them can be used, the essence can be extracted for a mild tea.
Yes.
But some of them can be poisonous. And I'm not going to try and find out. But next time you see a Tabebuia in Bangalore, be careful.
Yes, just like you must be with mushrooms. Some of them are completely edible, some of them are deadly poisonous. It's quite similar, you know.
Correct. The flowers are so spectacular, but you would expect that they would be fragrant, but they aren't.
No, trees have flowers with colors and fragrance, or with color without fragrance. Either of them would attract the pollinators, which are the bees and hummingbirds in South America. They open the petals, go in, search for nectar, and in the process the whole body gets covered with pollen, and then they come out. In Bangalore, what Krumbiegel achieved was really spectacular. Consider he had to choose the Tabebuyas to orchestrate them to flower one after the other. Then they were brought from the Cerrado to the coast of South America. From there they crossed two oceans.
Right.
They crossed the equator many times. They withstood the heat and the humidity and the salt water across these oceans. Then they came to Bangalore, maybe some to Tellicherry also. Then they were raised to Bangalore's height of 3,000 feet.
And just my question, how do you transport a tree? Is
They
it a seed or is it a sapling?
you can do both, and you do it in nowadays it's very effectively done in what's called Wardian cases. These are hermetically sealed glass cases where at the bottom you have a little bit of soil and some water and the sapling or the seeds. It's a self-contained system, perfectly recycling the water.
In those days?
No, nowadays.
In those days, what do you think?
It had just started.
How they have done it in 1910?
Well, that's what I mentioned. These saplings have to withstand the salt water, the heat and humidity. And they've come across alive, and they've done so well now in Bangalore. You can't believe they've been brought across from the other end of the world. It's literally the other side of the globe.
So it's literally a transplantation.
I'll call it translocation, more than transplanting. Krumbiegel just wanted more color in the streets of Bangalore. And the way he worked it out is almost an act of genius after studying the Tabebuyas in South America, which would survive in Bangalore. You can't pick up any tree from any part of the world. I mean, this is an equal tropical region. The altitudes were correct, and he knew it would work.
I'm back here to pay my respects to Gustav Krumbiegel. He left a lasting legacy for my city, and I think we ought to give him credit. We also, of course, need to give credit to the people who supported him. We enjoyed the conference of the Mysore Maharaja. He worked with a lot of progressive divans, and I'm sure there was an entire army of local gardeners who were really good at their work. But I will never forget that it was this German who connected my city, Bangalore, to Brazil.